Cliffie, welkom. Is episode 5, Grootskole episode 5, een handjie vol. Ben jy glo?
Ja, ek kan dit nie glo nie.
Begin so rustig, ek en jy het die idee gehad, ons het gesit en dink, waaroor gaan ons, dit sal nice wees, want ons het hierdie passion oor skole, en hier gaan ons episode 5, en ons raak bietjie kontroversieel. Vandag gaan ons bietjie kyk, ek sien uit om te in die comments wat die ouens te sê het, hoor, en asseblief, kom ons hou dit skoon, ons hou dit netjies, ons hou dit pragtig, en al die goed, maar sê, ek meen op die ouene van die dag, as dit waaroor ons gaan. Cliffie, ek gaan sommer vir jou die eer gee om ons gas aan ons almal voor te stel. Ons kort altyd 'n ou wat 'n opinie kan gee, wat 'n ingeligte opinie kan gee oor die snert wat ek en jy kwytraak, en ja, go ahead.
Ja, Rikus, ek gaan net vinnige intro net gee en dan gaan ek kom voorstaan. Ek dink dan bring ons hom reguit in, laat ons kan, soos die Engelsman sê, na die juicy goed toe gaan.
Ja.
Excuse. En
Here's the fun, hè?
Ek het gewag daarvoor. Rikus, ek dink die hele ding het regtig afgeskop laas jaar toe daai journalist Mike Henson van die BBC regtig 'n artikel uitgebring en eintlik bietjie pap gesmeer in Suid-Afrika se skole rugby, verstaan jy, in ons gesigte. En weet waar hy die posterboy wat ons voels baie onregverdig so half saam van huis teen uitgewys het, was sy maale hom in die bout gespuit het op 16 jaar oud, waar hy gesê het, ja, kyk vir 'n Piwe Jantjie, kyk na ou soos Chiliboy Rapele. Weet, en Chiliboy Rapele was ook al voorheen ook onskuldig bewys as gevolg van, weet, hy was gelink aan supplements, waar die supplements basies nie van 'n sekere unie en nie geskik was vir hulle om te gebruik nie. Weet, en toe laas jaar het ons na die statistiek gesien hoe dit opkom, waar basies ons is die eerste keer ooit in die geskiedenis van Kruimeweek was daar 6 spelers waar die vorige jaar net 4 was en die jaar voor dit was net 4 en toe 3 en toe weer 4. Van 2016 af dink ek het hulle, en laas jaar het hulle 6 uit 120 ouetjies getoets, en as jy om en by is, ek dink al 294 spelers op die Kruimeweek. En die Ire en die Frans het gesê, hulle wil nie meer jong spelers in hulle land inbring nie, en hulle het ons gesmeer, en actually, Saru is die pionier van hulle, want ons die hele rugby systeem is baie anders as die ander wêreldse. So hulle het self 'n model ingeïmplementeer, en hulle het die ding mooi uitgerol, en hulle het baie ouetjies getoets, en ek dink as ander lande ons model gaan gebruik van Saru, hoe ons al ouetjies van 16 jaar af al toets, gaan hulle baie verbaas wees hoeveel van hulle ouetjies gebruik, weet, steroïde middels.
Exactly.
Ja, en dis exactly hoe dit kom, en daarom wil ons graag selfs met Dr. Rob Collins, en hy is die spandokter vir die Emirates Lions, en hy gaan ons lekker inlig, en ons gaan 'n lekker gesprek hê met hom rondom al hierdie aspekte.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you, Dr. Collins, for joining us. I mean, and you are, just beforehand, we had this quick discussion, just while we were introducing ourselves, you understand Afrikaans, obviously, although you were brought up in England.
So klein bietjie.
So klein bietjie. Okay.
Yeah, I wasn't brought up in England. I was born in England, but I mean, I'm married to an Afrikaans lady now.
Okay.
I speak English and Afrikaans at work.
If you were ever in an Afrikaans domestic fight, then you would understand Afrikaans pretty well. So we can, we can communicate. We can communicate. Dr. Collins, I think, as Cliffie just mentioned, I think it's a bit. I think as Cliffie just mentioned, the big problem that I have from the bat with the info he gave was the fact that they are, by them, I'm saying the International Association, I think it's Ireland, Cliffie, that you were talking about?
Yes, Ireland and France and England, actually.
Yeah. That says that they don't want to play against our people because they're making us out as this evil people who cheat and whatever, while you and I know and everybody knows that, and I think that's the sad thing for me. I'm not saying it's right, but I think if you think that the people that's getting caught are the only people that's doping, I think you're very naive. If you want to come into that, on that point.
Yeah, I think everyone knows that there is a very big problem with this, and as you say, there's a lot more people using steroids and various other supplements than we're aware of. Unless you test people, you don't know what they're using. Yeah.
Exactly. And the main reason we wanted to talk about this was exactly the fact that school children, especially, and I'm going to have full disclosure here, and Cliffie knows this as well, and I said it to you beforehand. I used steroids previously in my life. Not as hardcore at the school level or whatever, but I was also naive. I was also in a frustrated time in my life where I saw and I used it, and let me tell you, the stuff works. It's inevitable. There's nothing that works like it. People can say, oh, you know, you can use this supplement. It's the same. Nothing is the same. You get big, you get strong, you get enormous, and results are there. However, I have had 3 heart failures. I've had liver failure. I've had kidney failure. And let me tell you, as much as the result as much that is there, the consequences are also real. And I want to tell that to every young boy outside there. Ek dink die main ding vir my wat die issue is net dit voel vir my, en ek sê nie op ons tye was daar nie ook jong ouetjies en goed wat op die sous geklim het nie, maar dit voel vir my of dit meer en meer gebeur. En Cliffie, ons het daaroor gepraat oor human nature, wat dit voel vir my of die ouetjies die implikasies en die gevolge in the fact that this stuff can really kill you, and they ignore that. And we had a discussion, if you can just go quickly, just what is the implications of some of the stuff?
So yeah, I think one of the main problems with it is exactly as you said, it works. I mean, if you want to get big, one of the best ways to do it is to use some steroids. It's not something that, as you would know, that it's not something that you can just inject and you suddenly get big. You've still got to go and do the work, but the work actually works. You do get bigger. The thing is, with sports is that most sports are about power to weight. So getting bigger is not necessarily a good thing, because the steroids make the muscles, but they make the tendons weaker, and the tendons what's joined as a muscle to a bone. So then you end up with these very strong muscles and weaker bones, and they're bigger muscles, of course, but then they snap off the tendons, especially in young people. And so that causes problems. And if you end up with a very big, heavy guy, but he's not fit and not strong necessarily, because there's a difference between big and strong. It's far better for a sport like rugby to be strong and fit than to be big. Of course, big is important as well, and most people who are strong and fit are actually are big as well. But yeah, it's to do with power to weight ratio. And the guys are using steroids. I mean, as you mentioned previously, the guys are using it. A lot of people are using it for how they look on the beach. They want to be Dak for Vac or whatever it is, and so they're, you know, then so they're looking big, and they don't think about the consequence of later in life. But I don't think any of us as teenagers think of the consequences of later in life. And I mean, you mentioned some of them. It can and probably most people who are using steroids know these things, but they're not real to a teenager or to a person who's using them. They want to use them because they want to get bigger, and they want this chick to like them or whatever it is. And then they're using something, and they're not thinking of, well, hey, maybe I won't be able to have a kid in a few years' time. I mean, if they're not going to get someone pregnant, they're quite happy about that, because at 16 you don't want to get someone pregnant. But later in life you end up with a hairstyle like mine, and you end up with cardiac problems, and as you've mentioned, liver, kidney. You can end up being impotent, and so that means you can't get an erection anymore, and you can be sterile. There's one of the big problems in younger people is also aggression. So there's big problems with it.
No, absolutely. First of all, I only had the heart problem. The rest is non-existent. I won't.
Come on, you said you're going to be open to it.
I am. That's no, but it's an important thing, and that you raise, and we wanted to do this, and that's exactly in the beginning when we had the discussion of talking about this specific topic, and it is a thing that's in our schools, and you can see it. I mean, people must just stop being naive, and they must just stop You see now the screen freezes with Cliffie on with his smirk over there, but hopefully it will return. But you can't ignore the fact that there's a lot of guys, and it's just I think people are ignoring it because it's not talked about. It's a taboo thing. You see a guy go on a vacation, a quick December trip for 4 or 5 weeks, 6 weeks, come back, and all of a sudden he's packed on 11 Ks, his biceps up like this, and we all naive and think it's, like you said, it's steak and potatoes. And I think we need to speak about this stuff, and people need to be open, because that's where the dangers lie, especially in a narcissistic kind of use, where they use it for attention. If they get the results, they get the results because they get more attention, because they are bigger. Now what they do is, if what they're going to do to get more attention is they use more. And if they use more, then they are, it's more dangerous. You understand what I'm saying? And I think the fact that people think that this stuff is not used or circulated within schools, they're very, very naive.
Yeah, I think as you say about the becoming dependent on it, is that something? So guys go to gym, and for people at a younger age to actually try and gain size is actually very difficult, because they've probably got more testosterone circulating in their blood system than they're going to ever have for the rest of their lives. But they actually burn so much energy as well that to actually grow bigger is quite difficult. Yeah. But using steroids, as we said just now, it works. So they think, I'll just use a short course of it now, and just to get big for this holiday. So then they get big, it makes them incredibly hungry, so they eat one hell of a lot of stuff. They get a little bit aggro, which sometimes can help it, sometimes it doesn't help, but it depends on your personality. But then they use it just for a couple of injections or whatever, and then next year they've suddenly realized now they've got fat because they've got used to eating all from the last year of where they used this. But they know the quickest way to gain weight and to gain some size, to get back on the beach again, is to use some steroids. So they do it again, and quite possibly 1 or 2 injections may not cause a problem, but it becomes a thing that you end up using over and over again, because it's so easy to get hold of, and it's so easy to use, and as I said before, it works. So that's what and as you say, I mean, people don't talk about it, and no one actually reflects back into their life either. So like for you, like you're so adamant about being sexually active and all that sort of stuff. There's clearly a problem there, and so you're actually but you'll never refer it back to all the steroids you used when you were younger. So you used the steroids when you were younger, and no one. So people will not. I mean, say someone. We will never know.
We will never know.
Yeah, you might not know. Yeah, but when we get back to,
I will.
when we, I mean, you get prostate cancer at 55 or something, whereas the usual age to get it is at like 70 or something like that. Then no one's going to say he got prostate cancer because he used steroids at school. Whereas it may in fact be related.
Mm-hmm. That's one thing I have to say, and to every young guy out there watching this, the first thing that you read, and when you said it now, it actually hit me, and it's the absolute truth. The first thing you go and research is how effective is it, how strong is it, how quickly is the gains. The last thing you research is the effects, cardiomyopathy, all of that stuff. And trust me, cardiomyopathy is no joke. If you try and your heart rate you're lying in bed, actually resting, and your heart rate is going at 150 beats and you can't breathe, for 9 weeks in ICU, it's no joke. Trust me. Rethink it. Cliffie, I want to bring you into this because you took a quick bathroom break or something, whatever. No, all we saw was your smirk there, laughing at the total untrue joke that went around. But you actually spoke that the amount of information that is available out there for some of the young guys. Because another thing, Doc, is we're talking steroids now. We're talking all of the obvious stuff, and it's not only guys. There's a lot of girls actually now that uses stuff like the Clenbuterol and stuff like that. That is actually just a weight loss. It's not necessarily just testosterone and the weight gain stuff, but that stuff is just as gevaarlijk. What the hell's going on with me?
Dangerous, yeah.
Yeah, sorry. I'm thinking about.
Simple word,
I'm thinking about that board with the dog. It's always gevaar, danger. That's also dangerous. And a lot of the girls you can see, also come back from a June vacation, lost 12 Ks, and it's I just started walking. Okay, cool. And that's also very dangerous stuff. But there is actually a lot of stuff that's not allowed in sport, in competitive sport. It's not only the hardcore testosterone, nandrolone, that type of stuff.
Yeah. Well, Rikus, the thing is, what we actually what I have realized during this time is, can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right, sorry. So this technology, anyway. During this time, we actually discovered, and I've actually done a bit of research on it, and I've actually spoken to a few people on the EPD side and Sorrow side and so on, asking, where does a normal young guy go out to know exactly, what are they doing right or wrong? What are they taking or what they're not taking? Because, for instance, we spoke about it, if you get a guy that's from the platteland, so to say, and he walks out to his local supplement shop because he doesn't have a discount, for instance, and he says to the guy, and he's well aware that steroids are, it's a no-go, and basically all these pre-workouts and certain stuff, SAMs, these things, and, these strange things that's on the market, and he's very well educated about it. But then he says, okay, look, I just want a normal whey protein. So now, the guy says, oh yeah, try this whey protein. And then he basically starts using this whey protein and gets tested positive. I mean, there was good examples, like for a guy like Adam Dean in England. He got tested positive for some sort of supplement or illegal supplement that was on the WADA list, which is the World Anti-Doping Association, which was in his whey protein. But he said, I've never used steroids. I've never injected anything into my body or anything. And then they tested and they said, well, it was sitting in your whey protein. So I actually went back to Sorry, and I asked, listen, where does the boys go to? He says, listen, we've got this website called BoxSmart, and on BoxSmart, we've got all the information there, and we try and promote that to the boys as much as we can. If you start buying a supplement, most of Sorry actually promote to say, listen, don't use any supplements. And I think Dr. Rob can actually add to this. He says, don't use any supplements for that matter. You only get about 1 to 3% performance out of a supplement in any way, compared to your other things like exercise, good food, good nutrition, vitamins, all those things, So, and they try and educate the boys as far as they can, there's nice information that the boys can go on to, Rikus. They can go on the WADA website, which is the World Anti-Doping Association. They can go on the South African Institute of Drug-Free Sport. They can go on this BoxSmart app, which we'll probably share on our pages also for the boys to go and see. Sure. And when you go to your local shop or whatever, before you take something, do a bit of self-study. And I think we should encourage the parents to really help the kids to do the self-study.
I want to ask Dr. Rob on Cliff's point there. Is it easy if people are not aware of all the, because it's apparently it's not a small list. Like I said, it's not 3 substances.
No.
It's medicine. So it is fairly easy to take something and test positive, and then the guy's whole career is in shatters.
Yeah, I mean South African drug free. Well, firstly, to answer about the WADA list, the WADA list is probably 6 to 10 pages long, and they're all big chemical names. So even something like nandrolone is a chemical name, but I mean a lot of the supplements that people use are in huge names, and you can't understand what they are at all. And so to look through that and to look whether your substance is there is quite a mission, and there's no one who can claim to know that at all. But you can obtain that list. And there's also websites as part of Boxmart and part of the Drug-Free Sport, South African drugfreesports.org. They've actually got a medications list. It doesn't contain supplements, but it's medications, what can be used in sport and out of sport. So you just type the trade name of the medicine that you're going to use, because some flu medicine is banned in sport. And you type in the name there, and then it tells... Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I've got bad asthma. When you type in the names there, and then you can, it gives you whether it's safe to use it or not. But in terms of what the chemicals are in the drugs and whether they're banned or not, there's firstly those lists of the ingredients on most of the supplements are so small that even if you had proper eyes, not as old as mine, but it'd be very, very difficult to read it. And they often use different names for them. So like methyl hexanamine is one of the common stimulants that's used, which is banned, but it's often called by other names. So if you want to go and research it properly to see what you can use and what you can't use, it's quite a detailed process, because you have to find each of those ingredients and then Google each one of those ingredients and see what it is and see whether you can actually use it and whether it appears on the wider list at all. So the advice to most people is to not use supplements as far as possible. And there's an English sports physician who actually said, you know, the thing is that the idea of these banning things is to not give people an unfair advantage. So if the supplement is working, then it probably should be banned, okay? And if it isn't banned, then it probably isn't working. I mean, it really is that simple. You know that if you take it and it gives you a buzz, then there's a reason why it gives you a buzz. Okay? So if it makes you get bigger, there's a reason why it makes you get bigger. And that reason is probably banned. Sorry, I'm talking a lot here now, but to try and add also to what there's supplements as well. So, I mean, if you were to take two supplement companies, A and B, and they're both selling whey protein, and there's nothing different between them, why are people going to buy A rather than B? So the one is that it's cheaper, and the other is that it works better. So it can either be accidentally contaminated, so it's made in a factory, and they happen to be making testosterone there as well, and a little bit gets into there. But what's better than to put a little bit of testosterone in your whey protein so that it makes the guys get bigger when they use it, and then it's a better product. So yeah, it's a very, very difficult market.
Such a line, but you mentioned something now, and we actually, Cliffie, we spoke about it, and it's just a question of human nature. You actually said, and you had a great way of putting it. You said there that if people, we always want to see the freaks. We always want to see people improve. We're always looking at, that's why we run. We started off running 100 meters a couple of 100 years ago, and it took us probably 2 minutes for the people running there and whatever. And every time they wanted to improve. So where's it going to end? And you said something, I don't know if you want to repeat this, but I want to take your story. So
No, go for it. No, look, I'm used to it. But you always steal my thunder. Yeah, but so what happened is, doing a bit of just reading, not necessarily research, and a lot of doctors has actually started recording sportsmen since, say, the early 90s till today. And what they've actually discovered is that, you know, kids were very well aware and quite scared of the unknown in the 90s, early 2000s. But now, I think with a lot of research and a lot of information, they say younger kids at school lack the absence of consequence. So they're willing to take, and it becomes very psychological, why they're using these steroids, you know. One, exactly what you touched on, you know, it's all about Facebook, what they see, how the guys look.
Exactly.
When the Springboks take off their jersey, not because they're using steroids, it's just because they've much grown them in and they work hard. They see all these muscles and stuff, and they say, I want to look like that. And every morning he wakes up and he sees himself not looking like that. So he says, okay, I'll do whatever it takes, you know.
Exactly.
So it becomes very psychological, and I think Dr. Rob has touched on it, but it's also the sense of not it's the absence of consequence, and they don't realize they're willing to take their chances, and that's really what the research has come down boiled down to. Yeah.
But I think we as people we don't care, and it's basically what you said now. If they and you, and now I'm going to tell you a story because you told the wrong story now again. The story that you told beforehand, where if there was a competition and everybody said, okay, do what you want, use what you want.
Okay.
Do whatever you want now, but you had your time. I'm going to tell the story. So,
Okay,
and you say, okay, cool. Inject yourself with mayonnaise if you want to. And there's a 100-meter dash, and the guy runs a 9-second flat on a 100-meter. And 2 years later, they say, okay, it's the Olympics, everything clean now. Who's going to worry? The guy's like running 9.8 or 9.6 or whatever. Everybody's been like, okay, that's cool, but that guy's the fastest guy in the world. And so it's becoming a sense of, and I think that's exactly what you're saying. People aren't. It's all about me. It's a narcissistic trait. That's just the consequences come second. And when I think you were cut off there a bit, but me and Dr. Rob had the discussion. It's all now become about the last thing they look at, especially if they're young, because if the effect is not now, if the effect is one day you may have cardiomyopathy, one day you may be this or that, you can say, okay, cool, but one day is one day. In 6 weeks, I want to be buff. And
Rick, it's the human nature, like we say, the human wants to push himself, they want to see, like, even since the 1920s, people wanted to see the freaks, the guy with the hair in his face.
Yeah.
It's just within us that we want to push the boundaries,
Ladies,
so like I said, like if we see a guy running whatever he uses, a 9 flat, who's going to care about a 9.4 or 9.5 at the Olympics?
It's like the boxing with the heavyweight. Everybody wants to see the monster.
But it's cheating.
Exactly. But then everybody.
So if you want to be considered as a cheater, cheat and use steroids. Yeah.
But the problem, the problem, Cliffie, is there's people now and I'm not saying this. I'm not saying at all. I'm like,
you're not promoting it.
My first message. My first message I put across there was, don't use the stuff. It almost killed me. I'm not saying it's that, but it definitely contributed. But the fact of the matter is, people that get caught now are being labeled as these criminals and as these, how dare you? It's like when the first divorce in the 1930s, people are looking at you and like, how dare you? You're such an outcast. How dare you? And where the fact of the matter is, I think, and that's my first point we had when we had the discussion about the guys from Europe condemning our people for using. I think if we knew everybody, I think past, current, and in future, that we all took a chance on doping, the first natural thing you say as a person, I never did it. And I think the fact that there is so much room for certain substances that can affect you, that you can buy over the counter, that normally can be used as a scapegoat. I don't know. A lot of people, I mean, Dr. Rob, that's a question I want to ask you. And I saw the Michael Armstrong, Lance Armstrong?
Lance Armstrong.
Michael is that's another guy.
One step for but they started using steroids back then.
But there's a lot of ways how they can cheat the system. There's a lot of ways where you can beat the tests, apparently. I don't know, but you need scientists. You need to do blood work. It's all very scientific. I don't know how accurate those documentaries on Netflix are. I don't know if you want to just go out on that a bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think Armstrong is a classic example. He never got caught for using whatever he used. Eventually, what brought him down was the people who broke the silence. That he'd actually intimidated and so many people around that eventually enough people broke the silence that he actually confessed. But he had a clever enough system that no one could actually prove what he'd been doing. And I mean, but people still these days, when they talk about him, they say, but he was a superb athlete. And that's the thing, is he was a superb athlete, but everyone was using it. But no one, I don't know, you can't say, I mean, his chemists were must have been cleverer than the others because he was never caught. The others were. It's you can cover them up, and you have to have a very, very careful system. But you need to realize that the Tour de France, the winning margins are so small that these steroids can make a proper difference.
Exactly.
It's the winning margin for the Tour de France is usually measured in seconds, and it's a 90 to 100-hour race. So when the winning margin is measured in seconds, what fraction of a percentage is that? And so that's, if you manage to get a 2% advantage by using chicken soup, then that's what you're going to use.
Intravenously.
Of course, intravenously.
But that's my point. And I think as long as there's a way to cheat the system, and there's people, then people are going to do it. And the thing is, and I think that's my problem is everybody's sitting, everybody's looking at a guy, and you see it in the UFC, you see there's always this babble going on about there are clever enough people there who know how to measure it. And I think at school level that the conversation started over there. I think it's a bit tough unless your father is so rich he doesn't know what to do with all his money. But then you can, because those guys, there was another documentary about the guy who helped out the baseball guys, and he just knew how to beat the system. It's just like milliliter by milliliter per week, do the blood work, see the counts, okay, stop for 3 weeks now, you'll be fine. And still what happens there is the guys ignore his advice and they take one shot as a bit of a boost because they're feeling a bit insecure, a bit ill, and they get tested. And then it all unfolds and whatever. I think Armstrong was clever enough and had the discipline. But as long as there's a way that people can cheat it, there's always going to be this one guy with the attitude of, I will do anything it takes, even if it means this, taking this chance. For me, I think there's a lot of bodybuilders out there, and we had the discussion now, and I spoke about the guys using it for the use of showing off. And there's nothing wrong with that. If that is, look, like I said, they have a much more healthier lifestyle than me, and they are doing it, and they're not hurting anybody, and it's their sport, and I respect them for their discipline. They get up early, their meals. I mean, it's a respectable sport, and the guys are doing well. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about guys who see them on social media, see these athletes, see everybody perform. They want to be there, but they don't have the knowledge. And they kind of know that this guy has to use, but it's taboo. Nobody's talking about it. So now they try and Google and they read on all the websites, and there's 50 different opinions, and they go for the cheapest one, and it's hush hush, that's how you get ill. And that's, I think, the wrong way to do it. So it's a difficult thing. I mean, how do you think there'll ever be a time where there's some sort of test, they pull out your hair or toenail clips or whatever, and they can backtrack it? I mean, how's it possible?
Yeah, it's always to do with levels. So there's always going to be a way to cheat any system. As South Africans, we know that. I mean, we'll always cheat any system. It doesn't matter what it is. It's part of our DNA. And at the moment, the top athletes who are using products are always one step ahead of the testers. So when the testers are developing a new test, then the athletes who are using things are ahead of them. So if they're pulling out your hair, well, you haven't got much left if you've been using testosterone. That's why you're wearing a cap. But I mean,
Cliffie, your hair
I'm still there. You can clearly see I didn't use any anabolic steroids when I was younger.
If you stand up, we'll see how much you use.
Don't you see this table keep moving when I move to the left or the right? Anyway.
The thing is, though, with also the youngsters using it, they don't have a clever system, and when you go Googling, then most of the stuff you're going to read is all the positive stuff of how it will make you bigger, and it will make you stronger, and it will do X, Y, and Z. But the information of the bad that it's going to do is not actually really documented that carefully, because it's also medically, it's unethical to study something which is illegal. So we actually don't go studying it, because, and if you ask any doctor, they're going to say, I can't give it to you because it's illegal. Is it worth, it doesn't matter who's coming to see you, is it worth giving the guy something which is illegal and it can cost you your license to practice, which is your whole career, for giving the guy something? So they end up buying it on the black market. You can buy it on the internet, you can buy it from guys at the gym, you can buy anything you like anywhere. And as South Africans, we know that better than anyone else.
Exactly. Yeah.
But Doc, can I just add to that? I mean, don't you think that's part of the problem? Information. You know, like rightfully, like Rikus said, I mean, people started buying anabolic steroids since the early 90s. I've done some research on it. They were driving here to Ons Weeklikse here at the veterinary, you know, and buying stuff there. People flew in from France to come and buy stuff here from Ons Weeklikse in Pretoria to get some anabolic steroids. They didn't know what they were injecting into their body. They just said, oh, okay, you know, what is it, Sustenance or Deca or whatever. I just went for it and I got gained, you know, I got the guns and everything else, you know.
Nice the lingo.
Yeah. And then, you know, so, you know, they were injecting these type of things into their bodies. And with time, if you look at a professional bodybuilder today, he can probably tell you anything by deep, you know, definition, DHEA, cortisol, you know, hormone therapy, you know, human growth, testosterone. He'll probably tell you more about all these things than an actual doctor. And I think that's part of the problem, actually, because these younger guys sitting with all this information, meeting this type of people and say, listen, you know, we've got a way to beat the system. I mean, when the water list was this big back in the day, you know, like you say now, it's a 4-page thing. So every year there's a new thing coming onto the market that they have to say, okay, well, that's illegal. Don't you agree with me? Information is kind of also, you know, these professional bodybuilders giving the misinforming youngsters. And I can rightfully say, Rikus, sorry, is that SARU is making, I'll tell all the young boys out there, you will be caught. Yeah. You will be caught, because there's people in SARU and in SASCO that's making their life mission to go out and catch people that's cheating, you know. And we want to keep rugby clean. That's the whole mission of SARU. We want to keep rugby clean, and they are you can even see in the Craven Week, you know, the stats are going higher. Maybe not because necessarily more players are using steroids. It's just that our testing systems are much better.
I think they are using more, but I still think the risk. I think if you're a schoolboy out there, you have your whole career, and you just said it, Doctor. If you are that young, and we've seen it how many times, the young guys come in, especially in history, young guy come in, has so much talent, and we always made the mistake of saying, he just needs to bulk up a bit, he just needs to get bigger. And me and Cliffie had the discussion yesterday. It's so refreshing to see a guy, and especially that South Africa is in the front foot of this, getting guys like Cheslin Colby, getting guys like Gio Aplon, getting small guys like Faf de Klerk, that everybody's like, oh, he's too small, he's going to die. You know, and they are making the difference. They are giving us the competitive edge. So, you know, that's, and exactly like Cliff said, I just think, and once again, I'm not telling every bodybuilder there or every guy there that, and it's, look, I have a lot of respect for your sport, but you said it, it's scientific. The average guy that want to use this type of stuff just for the effect of getting attention, you don't understand the amount of discipline, the science. Those guys who use the amount of chemicals they do, it's a diet, they live clean, it's a lot of water. They don't go and, you know, pump up a couple of Deca and then go clubbing and
eat the pizza and then a
beer. You'll die. I mean, you can't do that. So there's a lot of respect for the guys, and they know what they're doing. But the question we just want to get out there, and especially from a professional, you're gonna get caught. And what I liked what you said is the conventional stuff you buy, you get stuff that I know is a bit more about explosive power, like the stanazols and some of the nandrolone stuff that I think, what is that lady? She was a 100-meter athlete. She was tested positive from America.
I don't know about any things that you could use for bad effects.
No. I mean, that gives you a bit more of explosive.
Solar butt.
No, she was just a freak. She didn't. Never mind steroids. She didn't even need shoes. She could just go.
But you fearless, yeah.
But I mean, you said it in rugby, especially in the modern game, being more explosive, being smaller but with a bit more of explosive power gives you the edge.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you're looking at there's Prof. Noakes that she talks about that you need to. There's almost an envelope. So the best athlete is actually born. So you're born with the genetic potential, and if you don't have that genetic potential, it doesn't matter what you use and how hard you train and what you do, you're actually not going to make it. And there's no drugs that are going to make you make it. You just can't do it. That's not to say that the guys who do make it don't work hard. It's not a matter of you're born and you park off on the couch and so then suddenly one day you get an Olympic gold medal. You've got to take that genetic material and use it hugely. And even if you look at the stats of how many guys got to play to get to play at Craven Week, how many make it to be senior box, or the guys who made it to play for the under 20 box, how many made it to play senior? It's so small. You've got to be in the right place at the right time and have the right coaching at the right time and not get injured at the right time, etc. Using a steroid is potentially very dangerous, and it's probably not going to help you really. So, I mean, it's really not so I'm an old man and I can sit here and say it's not a thing to be using. And the worst thing to say is that I can remember when I was your age, and I mean, I can't remember that far back. Sorry, can I say that word? But I mean, it's there isn't anything that is really worth the potential consequences afterwards.
I think that's the most important thing. I think as we're wrapping up, Cliff, I'll give you a chance to wrap up now. I think that's the most important thing. If there's any young schoolboy, whatever, listening to this, and take it from me, the hospital, the ICU for 9 weeks is not your mate. And there's other couple of guys. And once again, if each to his own or whatever, but out of a competitive thing, it's just not worth the risk. Cliffie, and especially as you told how sharp the testing facilities are now.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think, Rikus, I think we must make it clear to every schoolboy out there, in vir elke skool sien daar buite, you will be caught. Don't do it. And
Sounds like Becky clearly.
Not me personally, but you will be caught.
You will be.
But just to add a little bit, Doc, and you can maybe just point out while we wrap it up, for the young boys to give them some advice. Apparently, they say a lot of the supplements you use, because you can't walk away from it, like a whey protein or something, they said you should look at the batch when it's been produced. So, for instance, it's been made on the 18th of January, then you must look for the full 30 days when the new batch has been made again. So go look at the batch number and see if the batch number is water approved. Because a lot of the times the supplement products, they come online, they get it water approved. Then they realize, it's cutting into my profit and my margin. So then they just keep it. And the guy said, okay, but I drank it before, it was water approved. But then they stopped that because, it's cutting out of their margins, And then you thinking you keep on, by that, he started adding a lot of other stuff and then you get caught. So go and look at the batch number. And if the batch is approved by water, it's not about the product, it's about the batch. So that's very important for every young guy out there to go and have a look at. Yeah.
What a mission!
I'd say I don't even know if you get like a water-approved list of batches, but I know that you can send batches for testing. So at the there was a Biogen product which they changed the ingredients of. But I mean, like at the Lions, for example, our products we've got a supplement sponsor. But every single batch that gets sent to us comes with a big fat document of everything that has been tested for. And the same product bought in a pharmacy may not necessarily contain the same ingredients as the one that you could get from
Exactly.
the suppliers that they give to us, because they're actually in sealed batches, and the batch numbers have got a certificate with them to show what they don't contain, or what, sorry, not what they don't contain, what they've been tested for.
Yeah. Like I said, don't quote me for that, but I think it's they say Dis-Chem has got nice batch supplements, but I don't want to say go to Dis-Chem and then something happens. But
so it is actually, it's quite interesting. At Dis-Chem they actually have different ranges. I think Biogen is one of the Dis-Chem range. But they actually have products which are safe for athletes and which are unsafe for athletes. Professional athletes, that is, which can be marketing either way. So, I mean, it's kind of,
if you're a boy, like, why? Maybe I'll do half. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
I think this type of topic we can go on for hours. We can, and I think there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of pressure on athletes to perform. There's a lot of pressure even on parents to make sure their children are at their peak. And for me, like I said, if we can get two messages across here. First of all, there are people that cross the line knowingly or unknowingly, and everybody's like I said, looking at them as though they are the one black sheep in the herd, and they are like, oh, how dare you. I don't think we've even scratched the surface of how many athletes cross that line every now and then and try and gamble a bit and see it works out, and every now and then they try their luck. And the other thing is for people just to realize that, trust me, if you use this stuff recklessly, first of all, it's not going to give you a real competitive edge in the sport in the long run. And if you use it recreationally and just be careful, do your info. You can ask me. It's not. Those consequences are not fun, especially the hard one. The other ones I don't know about, but the hard one is not fun.
So did you say the hard one is not?
The hard one, yeah. The thicker one, yeah. Thank you very much for coming in. You've been a real champion, and thank you for being open enough to talk about all this stuff. I think it's serious stuff we need to speak about, and once we said it from the beginning, we need to rip the bandage off this, get it out there, so people talk about it, ask each other these questions, because at the end of the day, that's the only way we're going to save lives. At the end of the day.
Absolutely. Thanks for the opportunity as well.
Cliffie?
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Doc. Thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
Wat is ons lesse?
Want elke ou se skool is groot.
Jy sê dit so mooi. Love it. Thanks, guys. Thank you very much.
Right.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Cheers.
Bye.